So for a few weeks now, I've been in goblin mode working on this Diddy video. And the way I'm feeling, the way things are going, it might be a while. So maybe Christmas, I don't know. Either way, writing the video has brought a lot of different ideas out about hip hop that I wanted to bring to the table before the video was done. Specifically, there's a point in the video where I bring up that my first ever favorite rapper at 13 years old, the first ever rap CD that I've bought with my own allowance money, the first verse I ever memorized probably, all come from a relatively surprising person who's not given a lot of respect as an iconic figure in hip hop history, one Busta Rhymes. Yes, for all my perceived hip hop purist credentials, despite the fact that I grew up hearing Public Enemy and Eazy-E and Tribe Called Quest and all these other things, when it was time to spend my hard-earned allowance money on a CD, and I kid you not, it was between the Fugees The Score, Outkast, AT Aliens, and Busta Rhymes The Coming, I chose the guy with the really cool music video with all the shiny colors. 13, y'all. Give me a break. But I don't regret it. I vividly remember Busta from his verse on Tribe Called Quest years before this. I vividly remembered Busta from his hit song PTA with his original group Leaders of the New School, probably back in like 89, 90. Like Busta has been around for a while, and it was obvious way back then that he was a future breakout star from the very jump. The real key probably was this trick that Busta does in a lot of his videos back then, where there would be like the main video, but in the first like 30 seconds to a minute, he'd preview another song on the album. And in this case, it was Everything Remains Raw, which even as a little kid, that heavy bass New York hip hop sound was already deep into my veins. And so when I heard the beginning of that, I was like, oh yeah, I need to hear the rest of that song way more than anything else that was out there. And the song held up. That's the best song on the album. Probably one of his best songs of all time. The Coming might be one. Is that his best album? Busta Rhymes is not an artist who makes great whole albums. He just isn't. But also, Busta's been in the game for like 30 years and he's made a ton of great music. And his 2020 album, Extinction Level Event 2, is probably, if it's not his best album, then his second best album way in 2020, 30 years after he got into the game. And what's wild though is that I thought this was his most recent album, but no, it turns out last fall, this time last year, he released another album in 2023. And I skimmed it before working on this script, and I have to say, that's not too bad either. Busta has had a career full of some of the biggest hits of the Shiny Suit era, and really like the Shiny Suit era is partly his. And he doesn't get credited to that because another 90s rapper, which, you know, again, making a Diddy video, don't want to get into that just yet. The point I'm getting at is that Busta was everything a top tier rapper needed to be at the time. He was a great lyricist. He had multiple flows. He had bars and punchlines. He wasn't the fastest rapper at the time, but like he helped create the wave that would put fast rap on the map. He could pull off street bangers, gangster rap aesthetics, R&B ballads, everything you needed to be a top tier rapper in an era where rap superstars were dropping left and right. He had that. But it doesn't seem like people really understand this. I remember during COVID when we were getting that Versus thing on Instagram from, I think it was Timbaland and Swizz, I'm not sure exactly. But for Black millennials, all of these were basically appointment television on Instagram. And I remember after one of them ending up in an argument with some friends because I said that Busta Rhymes needed to go against someone in Versus. And I was shocked to hear that other people made it seem like that wasn't a good idea. Busta Rhymes, they would say like incredulously, and then I'd have to pull up Spotify and play his many hits. Hoo-ha, Got You All in Check. It's back in 96, right? But a year later, Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See, that is the homecoming prom anthem of 1997 and 98 probably 99. That song still goes hard now. Fire It Up remix, Make It Clap, If You Give It to Me, Break Your Neck, Pass the Cavassier featuring. Again, this isn't an exhaustive list. It's not even including songs he was featured in because we got that Chris Brown joint that was everywhere for a year and a bunch of other songs. But just understand, if you were at a party that hip hop was being played at between 1996 and 2015, you were gonna hear some Busta Rhymes songs, period. Respect My Conglomerate, that came out in 2009, almost 20 years into his career. And yeah, again, There's really only 3 or 4 good songs on any Busta Rhymes album, plus a bunch of filler, but that's still more than most rappers can muster. Do you know how hard it is to have a top 10 hit every 6 to 18 months? Like consistently for 20 years. Ask DaBaby or Lil Baby if they would like a top 10 hit in the next 18 months. They will most likely tell you yes. And to me, there are 2 main things that held Busta back. For one, he wasn't Jay-Z or Nas, right? He wasn't taken as a serious rapper guy at a time where being a serious rapper guy was what was necessary, or the like hardcore fans and purists wouldn't really take you seriously. We were too up our own asses to see hip hop as being fun at the same time as being like of high quality. I talk about this more in my Kid and Play video on the main channel. It'll be in the description. But because Busta was clearly trying to appeal to a pop audience at the same time, he didn't get enough appreciation for just how amazing he was at being a hit maker, and a hit maker again of various types. And when I would get into these debates, you know how I would say he needed to be matched with Busta Rhymes in verses that never happened? Ludacris. Ludacris came on the scene only a few years after Busta's The Coming, and he immediately became the face of commercial hip hop at the time. And although his sound wasn't explicitly an ATL Southern sound like compared to Jeezy or T.I. or Gucci and like others that came out of Atlanta around the same time and after him, but he was still a part of that Atlanta wave that dominated hip hop for almost a 10-year period. And just like with Busta Rhymes, I would get eye rolls and smirks as if I said something silly. So again, let me go through a list of classic bangers that Ludacris gave us. What's Your Fantasy is his first hit. Southern Hospitality was maybe his second and biggest at the time. Splash Waterfalls. Did he Pimpin' All Over the World? Or Hoes in Various Area Codes? He might have did them both. They're both hits. Even late in his career, we have songs like Slap and My Bitch Bad and How Low Can You Go? All of these, again, are any millennial club mix. Like, you put a millennial club mix on, you're gonna get Ludacris, you're gonna get Busta Rhymes, you're gonna get a bunch of other people, but understand those Luda and Busta songs are going to set the party off. And what I realized when thinking about this is that Luda and Busta and guys like maybe Nelly were part of rap's mid-tier at the time. And in the last decade, it seems like having a strong mid-tier has been lost to the algorithms of streaming and TikTok. It seems like really replicating much of American society, there is no middle class. The middle class is slowly shrinking, and either you're thriving at the top of the food chain or you're on the underground. I know this is an old head take, but that makes it kind of hard to really build up like unique fandoms in a way. I know part of this is because I'm old, but I literally still, if you put on a Gunna song and a Playboi Carti song, it's gonna take me a second to figure out which one it is. No shade. It just is. And that's not just because they're all doing that like high-pitched triplet flow thing all the time. It's also because neither like takes up the type of space that they're supposed to across the entire oeuvre of hip hop. Playboi Carti is huge, I get that, but he's not huge in the way that Busta Rhymes is huge. I don't know if there's any Playboi Carti. Let me look that up. Maybe I'm tripping. Let me look up real quick if there's a Playboi Carti commercial. Where's my phone at? You know what? That was an ad lib, but I'm happy I did this shit, because boy, if it ain't gonna prove my point. So I Googled it, and editor, cue this up. I Googled Playboi, I searched on YouTube, Playboi Carti commercial. And all I found, I don't know what these are. These are like the least commercials. I've never seen these before. They don't look like they were ever played on TV. They don't have a lot of views. This is not the type of media engagement that a legitimate rap superstar, who I understand, I believe Playboi Carti is supposed to be. I may be wrong. Again, old head. This is not what rap superstars looked like during my time. Now compare that to like this 5-6 commercial like press run that Busta Rhymes had with Mountain Dew in the early 2000s. Do you see this shit? They got this nigga in whiteface. They had this nigga in whiteface. Busta Rhymes is the blackest nigga ever. Anyway. And this is when he is not Jay-Z. He's not Biggie, Tupac, Nas. He's not Eminem. He's the mid tier, and this is what they gave him because that's what hip hop was in terms of popularity. Now, of course, we want to get into critiquing, corporate oversight, shit like that. Like, again, go watch my old videos. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm making the comparison that there was a time where hip hop culture produced this type of attention and energy from its stars, and that's not happening now. It's still a matter of the attention economy not making room for the medium level stars, the Denzel Currys and Vince Staples of the world, the A$AP Rockies and Nellies of the world, the going back to my day, I don't know, AZ, it's not Jay-Z, not Nas, AZ, dope rapper, didn't get a lot of attention, but still probably made a bigger splash than he would have today. Even though there's plenty of conversations to be had, it feels like it's only the biggest conversations and debates that seem to be sticky and get the attention in the cultural discourse right now. It's either discussion about the big three or the most underground, literally scaring the hoes artists that a niche market is going to pay attention to, but not a lot of people really are aware of. And there's good music there, good stuff there that's not being consumed. Most of your favorite rapper is Currency. Do y'all know who that is? I'm not saying you don't have to, but you should. There's nothing wrong with really just loving the big three or whoever's on top. There's nothing wrong with Billy Woods and Mock Kami being your favorite. There's nothing wrong with that, but especially for you young folks, don't miss out on the plentiful eras of hip hop music just because you have those blinders on. Sometimes I think there's too many fans of hip hop and not enough lovers of hip hop. Does that make sense? Fans of hip hop are still in my comment section angry about Kendrick or Cole or Drake because of something I said before, because I have criticisms of them all. And they take the fun out of debating hip hop because they're not really debating it with a real passionate love for the music. They're debating it to be right, to be a part of the right fandom in their minds. They don't really like the music. They just like being identified with the music. And this is old heads too, by the way. I can't tell you how often I've gotten into arguments with people my age or older, explaining to them how good modern stuff is, and they just refuse to engage. They refuse to open themselves up to liking something that isn't from their era. But loving hip hop means loving the music and what it is at any given time. And yeah, there's deeper themes and forces behind the music that we need to discuss when we talk about, why the industry is in the state it is. But there's also just enjoying something because it's of high quality. If something goes hard, then it goes hard, period. I like that No Face song from Drake. Shocking, I know. I wish he'd finished it. It feels unfinished, but that was a great start to a song, like a great first draft that could be something I would have had in heavy rotation. So if I'm capable of that, y'all know me, what can I challenge y'all with? I don't know if there's a grander point to all of this beyond that, to be honest. I just want to talk about some top tier, mid tiers of my time that I don't think get enough respect. So as a rare call to action in the comment section, tell me who are the top tier, mid tiers from this streaming era. Also, name me your favorite Playboy Gunna Dollar Sign song so I can look it up and figure out what the big deal is out of these guys, because I'm sorry, I'm just not paying attention. But I'm trying. Speaking of trying, let's try to talk about where you're getting your news from. So last week, Hurricane Milton hit Florida, and this is just a week after Hurricane Helene came through Florida and even got here into Georgia, and remnants of it even destroyed parts of North Carolina. And I wish I was about to talk about how the amount of hurricanes and their power that we're seeing is evidentiary of climate change, that we need to do something about that. But no, instead, the conversation seems to be about lies and falsehoods being spread by mostly conservatives that migrants and undeserving folks are getting all the FEMA and disaster money and aid, while other more deserving people are not. And that is not true. Shocker. And I've been seeing this everywhere, but specifically I'm talking about this article I found on today's sponsor site, Ground News. This article is speaking on one of the most affected areas and significant presidential election battleground state, North Carolina, and a local newspaper that blasted Trump for spreading falsehoods that are somehow making FEMA relief, or the perceived lack thereof, the fault of immigrants. And of course, if you're paying attention to politics, you know that this has been a big habit of Trump at any given time during this presidential run. This is why Ground News is such a great product. Ground News was designed to cut through news misinformation by not just giving you the news in its raw form, but by evaluating multiple factors about a given news story to make sure that you are more informed about the information you're consuming. When you click on a story from Ground News, you're going to see multiple tools at your disposal that tell you the full story. It's going to have a bias tracker that tells you whether the story is being reported and to whom. It's going to evaluate the factuality of the story to see if it's really reporting the facts or a narrative. It's even going to provide you with information on the ownership of the news story, so you'll know whether it's from a giant media conglomerate or from an independent news source. There's nothing like this out here that allows regular people to be more informed about what's going on. The coolest feature in this realm is Blind Spot, which is where I found the aforementioned article. Blind Spot specifically sorts stories that are being underreported on either left or right-wing news sources. So if you lean right, you'll be able to see stories that you probably missed if you only look at right-wing news outlets or your social media feed, which only show you the things you're most comfortable and familiar with. These types of media bubbles lead us to having a weaker understanding of the world around us and a weaker analysis of the world as a whole, and Ground News exists to reverse that. Best of all, I'm currently offering 40% off their Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access to all their features like the Blind Spot feed. So go to ground.news/Signify B-side, use the QR code here on screen or click the link in the video description and help yourself to become a more informed consumer of the news by subscribing to Ground News today. Thank you so much to Ground News for sponsoring today's video. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm FD Signifier and this has been Lightwork.